Hello, everyone. This is Rishil Jaglal, and welcome back to a brand new podcast. Today, we are joined by actor and former supermodel James Hyde. Born and raised in Ohio, one of 5 children, James inherited his dedication and strong work ethic from his blue-collar father and his creative artistry from his talented country singer mother. After high school, James joined the military and was then discovered by a modeling agent in Hawaii. He embarked on a successful career that took him around the world, working for top designers, gracing his magazine covers such as Bazaar or Omo, where he met his wife, model and artist Suling Garcia. James resides with his wife and model actor son James Moses in Los Angeles, California. James, hello, welcome, and thank you so much for gracing your presence on this podcast today.
Well, you know what? You're absolutely welcome. It's good to be here. I love to talk and with everybody. I just did one the other day. I think it was in Switzerland. I'm doing one now in South Africa. One in Puerto Rico. So it's good to reach out and see how different projects have reached the world and what their perception, what their feeling was about the shows. It's interesting for me to hear, so it's really good to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So from the military to acting, how did the love for acting evolve for you?
Yeah, well, and I think the word is correct. It was an evolution. After I got out of the military, I started modeling in Hawaii, and that in essence took me around the world. Then I wanted to do music. I got a demo deal with Elektra Records, and I recorded that in Detroit. I performed all over the world with my songs for Versace parties, Cindy Crawford, Richard Gere, Christy Turlington, Naomi Campbell. All of them were in the audience when I was performing. So it was an amazing stage to be on. And I think the natural evolution for me from music turned into wanting to act. So I met my wife in Spain, in Madrid, Spain in 1988. And then I met her again in 1989 in Milano. And we've been together ever since. We started traveling around, and then when we decided that we wanted to go back, because during the 80s, when I graduated from high school in 1980, I joined the military, and then I lived 5 years in Hawaii, and then it took me basically 1 year in Australia, and then 4 years London, and so basically during the 80s, I was not really living in the what you would consider the United States. Hawaii is part of the United States, but it's like an island, like thousands of miles away from the mainland of the United States. So when my wife and I decided to go back, we went to Miami Beach, and that was probably around 1990. And we ended up buying a place there, and I started studying with somebody named Michael Shurtleff, who wrote a book on auditioning, and it was a pretty big, extensive course. It was about 16 weeks, and after I do this course, this is going to really tell me if I really wanted to do this journey with acting. And this was probably 1992, I think. And then from that point forward, I said, this is something I totally want to do. And I've never lost the passion for it. And no pun intended, passion. And it's been a wonderful ride, is all I can say. I've had some, any career that you're going to have over a period of time, you're going to have your peaks and valleys, and there's numerous things that happen along the way. But if you want to continue to do this business, sometimes, the doors are going to be closed and sometimes they're going to open, but I'm just blessed that the majority of the time the door's been open, and it's given me a very colorful career so far.
James, I have talked to many of my friends who are actors here, and quite frankly, acting was not something they first thought of. And it quite surprises me that, the universe knows what's best for each and every person in somewhat way or the other. Because you started off as a militant, you started off with singing and all sorts of things. Mm-hmm. And suddenly the universe just shows you a way towards acting for you. And I'm sure it's definitely, you would agree with me, something which the universe thought was fitting for you, and the powers of the universe actually put you there. God actually put you there. And you were blessed and graced to have been in this industry, and you have been, so to speak, so good at the work that you do in acting. One would never ever think that, hey, maybe James had a great passion for acting from the time you're small. But in fact, it was the universe who just shifted you there and showed you the way.
Well, I think I totally believe that. I really believe that. I think that God has a plan for each and every one of us. But the one thing I did get from performing was at a very early age is that, I would go to watch my mom perform. My mom performed. She was had her own band. She recorded some music. So that performing part of life came from my mom. Mm-hmm. And performing, in front of people, on stage in front of people. So subliminally, I knew that it was there. I just didn't know out of high school how to, maybe get to there. So from the road of, starting to, I'm so blessed. I was 17 years old when I went in the military, and I'm so blessed that happened, because it really took me out of Ohio, small town, took me to Hawaii, and then I felt, I had movement going on. I knew that when I was a kid, the world was a very, very big place. It didn't revolve around my hometown. I knew the world there was different cultures, and I wanted to jump off into the abyss, and I wasn't afraid of that. I just knew that what was going to happen was going to be exciting and wonderful, and I was ready for it. But getting back to the performing, I knew that it was in me. I just had to kind of find out when and how that was going to happen.
Mm-hmm. You have worked with many actors and put yourself in the shoes of many characters. What has the journey of working with these different actors and also putting yourself in the shoes of these different characters been like for you as an actor?
Oh, it's been great. It's when I took my first drama class back when I was, I think it was in 8th grade. It was fun because you can sometimes it's fun being other people and experiencing things that you wouldn't normally do in your ordinary normal life. So it's fun to explore, have fun, and it's playtime. Is what it is. It's when somebody says, "Hey, go in for an audition," and the first thing they tell you is, have fun. And we as actors sometimes, especially when we first start out, we get so worried about, oh my God, I'm going to mess up, or I'm going to forget my lines, or whatever. We forget the part of having fun, and I think that's very essential for us, is making sure that you're working, and sometimes it's very hard work. You're working a lot of hours, and it's very stressful and whatever. But at the end of the day, if you've gone through a really, really busy week and you finished your shooting, and it's just one of those great feelings that you have, that you do something you love. You worked creatively. You worked, you work long hours, but you were being very creative with the director and learning. Sometimes when I'm on set and I'm watching other actors, I sit there and I watch and I learn, and I learn from them. There's some things that I look at when other actors are doing their scenes. It's my time to sit back and watch and learn. And I think that this job is one of those things that I love, that you can learn something every single day that you're on set, or you're auditioning for another part. It's just a learning curve that you have, and it never stops. Never stops, because being creative never stops. It's just constant. And one of the things I love is from looking at other actors and learning from them. But it's been fun. You know, I've my first character, I played an internal affairs cop, which was fun. And then I played I don't even know what you would call this character on As the World Turns. I was more like I took care of the property. You know, I was kind of like the handyman of the property. And then you know, I went off and was a doctor in a series. You know, I played a cop on Passions, of course. I just played a DA in a movie called Dutch. I play a writer in Monarca. So it's been fun to explore and get yourself into these other characters. But it's been a blast. It's like I said, it's every day that I go to work is an absolute blessing. For all of us, everyone who is in this business will agree that, you know, when you work, you feel so blessed to be able to do what you love and ultimately make a living from it.
You know, I absolutely 100% agree with you. I've actually had a chat with many actors before, and you know, the fascinating thing about this business is you're never too old to act, you're never too young to act. You're always learning in each and every single step of the way from other actors. And as you teach others, you teach yourself. So this business, I would say, is something very, very unique to any person's daily 9-to-5 job. I mean, you're just going to work, you're just doing your stuff, and that's it. But in this business, you learn so many things along the way, not only about yourself, but about many other things in life itself. You just learn so much. And I'm sure you will agree with me, as an actor, you know, watching other actors, getting inspiration from other actors, everything of that sort, definitely motivates you to just carry on with the business in some form or the other, and actually even helps you put yourself in many other characters other than the character that you played once and you loved so much, you know?
Oh, of course. It's my son is 16 years old, and he, you know, he's going down that road right now where he's auditioning, and I try to help him, but you know, I have to let him discover and learn his own way, because, you know, I'm in there with him, you know, hey, did you print out your lines? Did you go over your lines? Have you worked on it? Have you done this? Have you done that? And sometimes it creates issues, but the one thing that I can only do with my son is give him the platform and, you know, ultimately share my ideas with him. But I've learned that, you know, I got to let him discover his own way of doing things, because, you know, he's not me. He's his own he's his own person. So I have to let him go through things, and so he can learn from those things. And so he's on his own journey. And, you know, the one thing about when you're 16, you look at it at a different way than I do. And it's discovery on, and I'm glad he's going through this right now, because it's a discovery, meaning that who knows what's going to happen in 2 years when he becomes 18. He may go, you know what, I tried it and I didn't like it. And that's totally fine. But at least he went through it to get an idea. Because a lot of people think that when they get auditions and things, that I think sometimes Moses has learned because he screen tested for a couple of shows for Apple, a CBS show called Swagger, and he went down between him and another kid from Australia, and the other kid got it, but and then there's another one called Reservation Dogs, and so he's gotten a lot of attention, but I think that what you have to discover is this job is everybody. And I told Moses, I said, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it and getting awards and things like that. It's hard work. You really have to put your time. You have to dedicate yourself, and sometimes, sometimes things look easy, but in reality, you don't know what's gone into that to get you to that point. There's been a lot of work. I mean, myself, I don't know how many acting classes I've been. In New York, I was there for, I think, 4 years, and I dedicated myself in New York to going to Anthony Abeson was a great teacher, and I went every Monday and Wednesday, and I never missed. And here in LA, I've done extensive work, and everywhere I've lived, Miami, New York, LA, you continue, even the auditions I get now, I still, whether it be big or small, I always get a coach, an acting coach, to run it with me, because you may have a good idea. Your instincts are always correct. Helen Mirren, when she did her master class, said that when you read the script, your instincts are correct. So trust your instincts. Then you got to go back and then you start digging. But every role that I get, no matter how big or small or whatever, I always run it with an acting coach. Always. And because I just want to get different. Sometimes we come up with some good ideas. Oh, wow, yeah, I like that. But generally, you have a good foundation of the character. I just like to run it and bounce it off and have ideas. So, but yeah, I mean, this business is, like you said, you never stop learning, and you could be, in your 60s and 70s and still, as you can see, there's actors that can do this into their 80s. So there is no age limit on this. It's for life if you want it to be.
That's very true. Recently, I was talking to a director and also a producer named Jubilis Timothy here in South Africa. And he even gave me the same insight that no matter how much of a top actor you really, really are, no matter how top you may be, each and every single actor always has a coach, and they always take that coach. No matter how many awards you win, no matter how many nominations you get actually, you always have these actors who always have their coaches with them. Because yes, the instincts may be right, but they still need to make sure that everything is done to the T when it comes to their job. And that is so true. And I really love the fact that you're allowing your son to really follow his own path. To really have him follow his own path is a great thing that any parent could have in them. Because, at the end of the day, each and every single child that is born in this world has their own path to get to in their life. Parents are only there for a limited amount of time. You are limited, I am limited, we're all limited in this world, and then we all have to go someday or the other. But we must leave that legacy of having to say to our child, if this is the path you'd love to follow, then go for it. But just know that each and every path, you have a discovery. And that discovery is to make sure that you are on the correct path. Because Moses may decide, you know what, I've tried it, as you said before, I've tried it. I would now like to step aside and try something else. The universe will always, in some way or the other, make him see that path and show him that this is where you belong. It will always come to that way, because the universe always has its ways of showing. Whatever happens in your life, it will always show you this is where you belong, and it will put you there no matter what.
Sometimes, that's a good point, because I think sometimes we neglect to listen and to listen to those signs, look at those signs, and sometimes we fail to do that, and that's okay. But eventually, it'll come around, and then you'll listen and know that that's the direction. So yeah, that's a very good observation there for sure.
So you've been working with so many actors, and I'm sure a lot of inspiration has come in the way. During your journey of being an actor, tell us some of the inspiration you've gotten and how it's helped you move forward in your career itself and in life in general.
Well, going back to when I first started, I took a class, Michael Shurtleff, in Miami. Michael Shurtleff wrote a book on auditioning. Very, very amazing. And that's what kind of catapulted me in, because I said, after this course, it was a 20-week extensive course. And I said, after this, I'm going to know, this was like in 91, know whether I really want to do this or not. And after that course, I was just so motivated, and I said, yes, I love it. I was very green still at the time because, I was young but I had lived as well. So one of the things that we always do, Meisner or Strasberg, is you take real life experiences and you throw them into the role, or you, of course, I'm not a writer. I've never been a cop. So I've never been a doctor. So you have to then, use your imagination for a lot of things. So I think the technique is both. You have to have both, because there's a lot of people who are doing roles in their 20s that they've never done before. So you have to use your imagination, and then there's other situations that you've gone through. It's like, wow, yes, I've gone through this, so I could really, I can relate to this, or but the motivation for me has just been getting booked and staying on course with this career, and knowing that this is my destiny. I'm 58 years old now, and I don't feel that any less motivated than I did when I first started. So it's all still very exciting. I mean, when I get booked for a job, I get so excited. I feel like then it's like, okay, well, let's get to work now. Let's dig in. Let's try to do some really, really good work, because now is the time that, we really, it's always been that time, but you really need to lock in, and you really need to do good work, because people are going to see your work, and that's how you're going to continue your craft, is by doing good work. People see it, and then they want to book you for some good roles coming up. But I think at the end of the day, we just have to be motivated at all times, and feel that desire to create, and feel that desire to always be motivated, and to continue to get better. That's the main thing, is that we all want to do things, but we all want to work with different directors and be on different stages and get better at our craft. Just get better, and I look back on some of the stuff I did at the very beginning. I was on Another World in like 94. And, I was a bit of a deer in headlights, I think, a little bit. When you do soaps, there's so much dialogue that you have. I mean, so much that it's almost like you jump in the water and you have to swim. Either that, you're going to sink. And I think that was very hard for me at the very beginning. I moved from Miami to New York. I didn't realize on how much dialogue that I would have to say on a given day. It was... and then you learn. People were like, oh my God, how do you learn so much of 60, 70, 80 pages of dialogue? Well, the only thing you can do is know the first 6 or 7. And then through the day, you just look at your other scenes as you work during the day. You just, and there's no way you can master 80 pages, but you get the bulk of it, it. And then during the day, you just learn the rest. But yeah, I mean, it's just everyone's on their own journey, and that's the beautiful thing about it. You know what I mean?
We all as actors always face our challenges in the industry. I think everyone does in any such work environment. They always face their challenges. What are some of these challenges you have faced in the industry, and how have you managed to overcome them over time?
Yeah. Okay, so that is a very, very, very good question. I think that as a beginning actor, even thinking the thought of becoming an actor while you're in your career of acting, so the hurdles are basically when you first start in the business, there's always, like, if you live in Los Angeles, you have to be able to support yourself. You can't just not support yourself and continue to do the job. So first and foremost, you got to be able to support yourself. What does that mean? That means you got to go out, you got to find something that's going to give you the hours so that you can go out and audition, but also be able to make money to keep the roof over your head. So those are challenges, because a lot of people who come from the Midwest or, from Texas or whatever are going to come to LA. The first thing that I would say is to be able to either already have some money set aside for yourself when you get here, because what happens is then becomes stress. Once you add stress to whatever, already you're stressed out over the audition. So you're adding a double factor there. So those are the kind of things that happen. So when you get into the business and you start working, now say for instance you go through a period where for some reason you're not booking like you used to. All of a sudden you start looking at yourself and saying, wow, it must be me. I'm the problem. And the only thing that I can say to that is that's why when people get up and give speeches at the Oscars and whatever, I'm so in tune to what they say, because everybody's had a journey. Some journeys are, you get up the mountain a little quicker than others. But the one thing that you always have to say is you have to be persistent. You have to be patient. And the belief in yourself is a must. Because everybody is going to try to tell you, no, you're not right. You shouldn't be doing this. And from that, you have to fight off all of the noise, the peripheral noise that you hear. And you have to focus and you have to say, I'm going to do this. When I was talking the other day, I think you and I were speaking a little bit, Jim Carrey has this book. And if you read a little bit about Jim Carrey, not only is he a talented actor, comedian, but he believes in manifestation. And he wrote a check to himself. I think this was before he did Mask, and I think it was for $1 million. And it was a year or 2 years or something. I don't know exactly, but in 2 years from the time he wrote the check, he took that check out, and I think he gave it to his dad or something. But he made the check out for $1 million, and he kept it in his wallet. And he manifested his success. Look, there's different formulas for everybody. The prayer is amazing because you're connecting with something very powerful. And it's walking through the world in an empty space is not good. You've got to be able to hold on to something, your family, but the higher power is always something that that if you believe in that, I think that you're on a good road to success. Now, whatever success means to everybody, I mean, success is different for everyone. And whatever that is, it could be monetary, it could be, your resume is very big. You could be, my success was I worked with a particular director, I worked with a particular actor. There's different success for everyone. For me, success is longevity. Being able to stay in your craft for a number of years, and hopefully through that, the monetary gains will happen, so you're able to support your family and stay in something that you love to do. But you just have to, you cannot go through a period of self-doubt, because it'll start to chop you down. there are certain things that happen in a career too with different actors I've seen, and I've gone through it too. Luckily enough, I've been with my manager Laura Palace for about 18 years. I've had different agents, but I've had the same manager for that length of time. And I've been married for 31 years, and I have a son that's 16. So I've had a lot of consistency in my life, and I think that is very important for me, and how I go through things in life. Because you know what, like I said, since 1992. It's been a long career, and I've had ups and downs, and I've been out into the desert and wandering around like, what am I going to do? Nothing's going to happen. Well, I just stayed the course, and it comes back again. So I would say that, if you believe, the number one thing in life, doesn't matter what everybody else says. It matters if you look in the mirror and you believe in yourself, then you've won. You're the winner. You don't need extra people to come up to you and say that you're great. I always heard this quote, says, don't believe the hype. Don't believe the good or the bad. Because if you listen to the bad, it's going to wear on you. If you listen to the good, that could be bad too, because people may be just trying to be in your area just to inflate your head. But just stay humble, stay grounded, and believe in yourself.
James, that is so true. I could not ever, so to speak, agree even more, because okay, I realized my true passion for acting after I turned 13. Yes, the spark was not there before that, but it started at the age of 13. And I had a massive challenge on me, because here in South Africa, the industry was not as big as it is in the United States or in India. It was not that big. And so paving a way for me to get into this industry, particularly here in South Africa, was a major challenge for me. But the one thing I always had is belief in myself that I will achieve this, be it in South Africa or overseas. Although I was thinking of going overseas more than doing acting down here,
right,
I always opened myself, and I always believed that I will achieve this, be it here or in overseas countries. And at first, my parents were not so supportive. They were like, get yourself a living, what have you. And they are very conservative parents. And for some reason, it was not something so into their type of living. But then still, I changed all the hate and made it my motivation. They say haters are the biggest motivators.
Yeah.
And so for me, the hate was the biggest motivator. I always took it that way.
Good.
And today I am where I am today because of that. Because yes, I got a lot of recognition from the South African industry through the 2 movies that I've done, and which is the third one coming up. But the work was still difficult. But the one thing that always kept me going was my belief that I finally achieved what I love most in my life. And also another thing to have, most importantly, James, is love.
Oh, yeah.
Love for what you would love to do, or for what you'd like to do most in life. Because the power of love destroys all negative forces in your life and in the universe itself. That's what I always believe.
Well,
and I feel that is what I've always had too.
Yeah, I totally agree 100%. Because we live in a world, unfortunately now, it's there's a lot of hate out there, and it's up to us to kind of spread the word of that. My wife wrote a book, and she wrote a book called "Spread the Love," and basically, it's a beautiful, beautiful book, and it's basically about sharing and giving, and if you receive something, throw it back into the universe and let and let that love find somebody else. So, so she's in tune, man. My wife is way beyond where I'm at the moment, but I'm just trying to catch up. But the one
Yes,
thing that I
absolutely.
agree with you, you know, when I would go, you know, my dad worked in a factory, so when I would go home and I would show Dad my you know, my pictures of my portfolio of pictures, and my dad never understood it. He goes, "When are you going to get a real job?" And I go, Dad, you know, my mom understood it, but I said, Dad, you know, this is my job. And he just couldn't wrap his head around me standing in front of a camera and getting paid for that. You know, he's like, what? How does that even, you know? But you know, I think when I was on Passions and my dad could, you know, watch me every day, then I think it kind of sunk in, like, oh, okay, this is what he wanted to do. You know, this is his path. So. Then he was kind of, and then he kind of wrapped his head around it, and he didn't offer me the job at the factory anymore. He was like, "Okay, you're good." So, but you know, life, like I said, man, you know, it's you in the world of this as well. It's another point that for everybody that's involved and want to get involved in this, whether it be music or whatever, you are not like anybody else. We are our own entity. We're on our own path. So when you sit down and we start comparing ourselves to other people, that's a dangerous thing, because your road is entirely different than my road, and we're paving our own ways. You know, so it's good to just, you know, understand that, and you know, God has plans for all of us. Our journeys are going to be different, but. And that's a very important thing to know as well.